From the basement of La Penta, this is WICR.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Vault. I'm your host with the most, Jersey Joe, sporting the brand new New York City FC jersey. We'll be on the air later today for Soccer Showdown. Very excited for the inaugural season of NYCFC. But we've got a little bit different news to cover this morning. Obviously, this morning, you're either talking about Kentucky or you're either talking about the LeSean McCoy trade. And there's a lot of different opinions out there. A lot of people are either kind of on the side of Chip Kelly, giving him the benefit of the doubt. I do fall in that wagon, as we'll get into. And then you have other people who think he's kind of gone a little power crazy, not making a great move. Now, it's tough because I think initially when you see it, you would expect, for getting a guy like LeSean McCoy, who's probably been the best running back in the league maybe the last 2 to 3 seasons. I mean, last year he got off to a very slow start, but I mean, the yards were still there. He still had a very good year. I mean, he's different. I'd say Marshawn Lynch and him are probably in Le'Veon Bell. I mean, Lynch and Bell and Murray and him are in that top tier group, but they're also different because McCoy definitely is not as powerful of a runner as those guys are, but he fits that Chip Kelly offense so well. Not anymore, though, because he has been sent packing, and it's interesting because we really see that very rare now for that singular running back to really be the dominant force on the team. We've seen it in the draft, how late guys were taken last year in the draft. 44 was the first running back taken, Bishop Sankey. The year before that, 37th was the first running back taken in the draft, Giovanni Bernard. So the running back definitely doesn't carry the value it once did. I mean, LeSean McCoy is still got a lot of good room in him. The only surprising thing for me in this trade, now I'll get into this now. I thought it was gutsy, but I don't think it was a bad move. Now, the only thing that surprised me was that all Chip got was Kiko Alonso, and obviously Kiko Alonso is now the 9th Oregon player he gets for the Eagles. And it's interesting. I mean, you get it because they free up $11 million in cap room. That's going to give them a lot more flexibility. And you've got to think, I mean, his salary cap was taking a lot out of their total number. But, I mean, what are they going to do from here now? And I thought the only thing I was surprised about was they didn't get any draft picks because, let's be honest, folks, Chip Kelly is bargaining his way to get Marcus Mariota. There is no way around it. I think first, there was all the reports about it, and we weren't totally sure. We were just kind of speculating. But I think when you look at the way all these dominoes are falling and the moves that Chip has made and the way he's positioning himself, there is absolutely no doubt that he is going to do what it takes to go up there and get his guy, Marcus Mariota, that he had. And I think it's the smartest move right now. I mean, if that was the case, getting rid of McCoy is probably a smart decision because you're probably going to need, he probably has the ideal version of what the offense is going to look like with Marcus Mariota. I think Chip is a guy who's always thinking, always innovating. It's the reason I give him the benefit of the doubt in this situation. Now, I agree with a lot of people. This is a risky move. It really is. Kiko Alonso did show a lot of promise, but he is coming off that big injury, and that's got to scare you a little bit. But he is a good player, and I always give Chip the benefit of the doubt because when we look at Chip's teams historically, they get faster, they get more efficient, they just get better over time. I mean, when you look at his time everywhere he's ever gone, those things have stayed true. His offense has always gotten better. We saw that this year until, of course, Nick Foles gets hurt and then Mark Sanchez comes in. Whenever Mark Sanchez comes in, that's usually not a very good sign for your team. But I think right now this is a move that I'm for it right now. Now, I don't love that they only got Kiko Alonso, but I think in terms of salary cap, it'll give them a lot more flexibility. And like I said, the only surprising part for me is I would have liked to get some picks to make some more maneuvers in the draft because right now we get it. It's going to be about Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is, for all intents and purposes, is going to be, the Eagles are going to put all their chips on the table to go up there and get him. Now, most likely, they're going to have to give up a pretty significant amount of picks to get him. I don't know if it'll be as significant as the RG3 deal, but most likely they're going to have to give up their 20th pick, which is a given, probably a first-round pick next year, and probably a lot more picks in between there. But it was interesting because with Buffalo especially, because Buffalo really couldn't give them that pick, because remember last year, Buffalo gave away their first-round pick to move up to get Sammy Watkins. So as soon as I saw this headline and it was Buffalo, I kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be involving a great deal of picks, but that is not the case. It is straight up Kiko Alonso for LeSean McCoy, and this is not official until about the 10th, and all reports coming out right now are saying that LeSean McCoy is not happy with this at all. He is not happy, and he's not going to make this a very easy process. Also, it was kind of funny that C.J. Spiller was on NFL Network after this and kind of said, I'm sure Chip Kelly has my number, and I don't know if C.J. Spiller is really going to be a guy who Chip is going to go out there and get. I mean, if you kind of look like getting rid of McCoy's still got a pretty good amount of wear and tear on his tires. He's still got a lot of gas in the tank, but there's some miles on those tires, and I think it's the same thing with Spiller. Spiller, the only knock you could really have on him has been durability throughout his career, and I just don't know if Chip's going to want to bring in a free agent running back who you would think is going to want a pretty nice contract. I don't think he wants the moon, but I think he's going to want a pretty good amount of money, and he's very versatile. He actually is a lot like McCoy in the sense that he can catch balls out of the backfield. He's got a lot of speed. They both are very good running backs. Maybe Spiller got a little bit more height on McCoy, but I mean, I think McCoy's size worked so well to his advantage because he's so he's so flexible, kind of moving around and bending his way around, moving and avoiding tackles. So it's worked out well for McCoy, and we will definitely see, because it seems like now Rex Ryan is going to make him the workhorse for that team. He's going to ride McCoy as much as he can. And look, I mean, for a guy as good as he is, for what Rex is trying to do, for what their new offensive scheme is trying to do, McCoy fits the bill perfectly. And I think giving up Alonso, seemed like Rex liked him a lot, but I think if you're the Bills, this is really a slam dunk. I mean, not having to give up any picks, getting LeSean McCoy, who's still got probably a good solid 3 years left in him, I don't think you could have done much better in this draft. And for the Eagles, it's more about you give up the good player, but you get a lot more flexibility and position yourself probably a little bit better in the upcoming draft and through free agency. But it's going to be just really interesting because I kind of just starting to think now, and we're seeing a little bit of stories written about this now, is how is this going to be written about kind of when it's all said and done? Is this going to be the kind of defining moment that either makes or breaks the Chip Kelly legacy? Because I think for a lot of people, he's still unproven. Now, for me, I think he's done a lot of good things. I think he's shown he can work, and we see with guys like Chip, in the NFL, it's so hard to kind of separate yourself from everyone because the margin of competition, the level of competition is so razor thin. I mean, the thing separating the Bills from a team like the Lions or the Packers is not that far off. It's usually a quarterback, or it's the quarterback is the biggest piece of all that separates everything else. But I mean, in terms of the other little things, I mean, it's like the Jaguars. If they can develop Bortles, they've got so many good positional players. There's so many factors in the NFL that just make it so much of a difference thing, and you've got to be innovative. You've got to be trying to do things different from the next guy to set yourself apart. And that's really the theme for life, and it is in the NFL and all sports, really. But Chip has shown time and time again how he's not afraid to try new things, to be innovative, to think outside the box. It's why his offenses have always been so successful in college football, and why we've seen him doing this, which no one has really been able to match the speed their offense plays with in the NFL. Now, they're not the Oregon Fast, but that's a given because in the NFL, guys are bigger, stronger, and faster. So you are still playing at a very fast pace, though. And I'm excited for Marcus Mariota. And it's a lot. Some people have their doubts about him, but I think I've said all along that you put him in this position. There's no one else who could get more out of Marcus at the next level than Chip. Chip knows what it's going to take, what the offense is going to be built to put him in have success. And I think it's really a perfect marriage, Marcus Mariota and the Philadelphia Eagles. And it seems like now this is the ninth duck to kind of come to the Eagles was Kiko Alonso. Well, I think pretty soon you're going to have a 10th one in Marcus, and we all kind of get it. I mean, just look at it logically. Look at the way that the chips are falling. Marcus is going to most likely end up there. But it's interesting because what's going to happen, I mean, this has got to kind of show you what's Tampa Bay going to do. We've seen a lot of reports this week that Jameis Winston went there for a visit. I don't think Marcus Mariota's visit there is scheduled until about April. So, I mean, it's just fascinating because you've kind of got to get a sense that if the Eagles really felt like Marcus was going number one, they wouldn't be kind of doing all these things to make sure they'll get up there to take him. And it seems like this, I mean, we're going to see as the weeks move along more and more of an indication who they're going to go with. But I think right now my gut's probably telling me it's Jameis Winston. And that's what the Eagles need because it seems like no one before the Jets would go out there and take Marcus Mariota. So it doesn't seem like the Titans have any interest. It doesn't seem like the Raiders or the Jaguars are going to do anything. And the Redskins would most likely be the team at 5 who the Eagles would have to make the trade with, which is interesting again because same team in the division. It's fascinating. It really is. But this trade, when it happened last night, I had to sit there and think about it for a little while because, like I said, at first you're kind of thrown off because you see a guy like LaShawn McCoy, and for everybody who plays fantasy football, you know the numbers. You know how productive he's been last year. I mean, putting up just monster-type numbers, this offense suits him very, very well. And when you saw that all they got was Kiko Alonso, a lot of people were scratching their head and questioning Chip Kelly because we understand now that Chip has control over all player personnel. He has control, the flexibility, the freedom to make any move that he wants. And I think for a lot of people, they're a little weary and skeptical of this, but there's no doubt it is gutsy. But I think when you look at it in terms of the grand scheme and what Chip wants to do, it does make a lot of sense. And I give Chip the benefit of the doubt because there's not a lot of people who can do things offensively and are as innovative offensively as he is. And never forget when he was still coaching at Oregon, where Bill Belichick and him would always have a kind of off season in the summertime. They would have their teams together and they would just kind of pick apart each other's brain. And I think that's one thing that's always been interesting, especially from Belichick's standpoint. And let's be honest, we've seen it time and time again. Belichick is a guy who's looking to get any advantage there is. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, how insane it is. Bill Belichick will try to find any advantage. He'll study anything to get an advantage on the football field, sometimes unfairly. But you look at Chip, and that's always been a guy he's like to pick his brain from, and that kind of just tells me the respect guys have always had for Chip and his innovative thinking, and that's why in these situations I tend to give him the benefit of the doubt. But definitely his team is getting younger. I think he definitely understands he has to put a much larger emphasis on the defensive side of the ball because that has been a major crux to this Eagles team the last 2 years. And the linebacking core has been really decimated in the last in Chip's first 2 seasons. I mean, he really has struggled getting stops, especially in the running game. I mean, they've just been atrocious stopping the run. So I think he understands the linebacking core is very important. Defensively, he's got to put a lot more emphasis there, but I think that is something that will come. And Marcus Mariota is also the next piece that will come, and it'll be very exciting to see what's going to happen there when we move into the draft because I've been seeing it all along. I did a segment on this a couple weeks ago. You just can see it. Marcus Mariota going from Oregon Duck Green to Philadelphia Eagle Green. And I've been looking on Twitter to kind of see different Eagles fan reactions, and there's a lot of Eagles fans who aren't happy about this, and there's a lot of Eagles fans who are optimistic about this, and I think that's the camp I fall into. I understand it. I understand being upset about LaShawn McCoy because he is an outstanding player, and he still has a lot of good years, a couple good years left in him. Just running backs just don't last the way they used to, especially for a guy like him who is not that physical, bruising back. So it's very interesting, but there's going to be a ton of different reactions, and it'll be fun to see how McCoy deals with this because we haven't heard from him personally, but it seems all reports are right now that he is not a happy camper, but we are happy campers on this show, and thank you for listening. We'll be back later in the day for Soccer Showdown. Cannot wait. Everyone, you enjoy.